The Chicago Bulls are winning again. 4 straight wins and 5 wins out of the last 6 games, and to push the Bulls 1 game below 500. The offense is elite, the number 1 offense in the NBA over the last 6 games, and the vibes are somehow different around this team. But I still don't all the way trust it. Today we're going to talk about why the Chicago Bulls are giving us hope again for Christmas, but why that hope could be dangerous and why trade season has officially begun and Coby White and Nikola Vucevic are having reportedly more suitors than initially thought. We're going to go ahead and get into it all and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Eric Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And let's start off here, right? The Chicago Bulls have won 4 straight games. Their win over the Atlanta Hawks last night, which came down to a very interesting last minute and a half in that game, pushed them to 4 straight wins, and they won 5 out of the last 6 games. The Bulls find themselves now below 1 game below 500, entering into the new year with a chance to get above 500 when you look at their upcoming schedule before the new year starts, right? The Bulls have that opportunity. And this is a weird spot to be in when you're at the Chicago Bulls because they've given us so much legitimate reason for doubt over the course of the season. There's no other way to talk about that, right? Like when you go 3-3 over you get 3 wins over a 16-game stretch, it's difficult to believe in a team even with a 4-game winning streak and a 5-game winning streak to begin the season. The Bulls head into the end of this week. They still have 2 more games. They have a game against the Philadelphia 76ers and a game against the Milwaukee Bucks. And then before they finish the year, they have a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves and another one against the New Orleans Pelicans as well before this calendar year ends for the Bulls. So they have 4 games left. They're 1 game below 500. What's going to happen there? That's going to be the interesting part of all of this, and we'll see what the Bulls end up doing with it, man. They sit right now 29 games on the season. They're 1 game below 500. And interestingly enough, they're only 2.5 games back of the 6th seed because of how tight the Eastern Conference is right now, right? When you look at this, the Bulls have the 6th best net rating in basketball over that time period, the number 1 rated offense. They're 2nd in true shooting percentage at 62.4%, 9th in assist percentage because we got everybody back healthy as well, 7th in rebounding percentage, specifically though, 2nd in defensive rebounding percentage, which is huge because they're getting 78.7% of all defensive rebounds available, which is major for a team that was giving up so many second chance points early in the year and couldn't keep opposing teams off the boards on the offensive side of the ball. So we're seeing this team shore up a lot of the things that we like to see this, or that we wanted to see this team improve on. The question now becomes about like how consistently can they do it? And that's still the question with this team. Hope is a dangerous thing, right? Because hope kind of, when you start feeling that hope in you, it makes you kind of ignore some of the things that you've seen before. And this team has been playing great. And I don't want to take away from that. The energy has been a lot different. Us having our full roster and being able to go consistently 10 or 11 players deep has been great. The fact that in this 4-game winning streak last night was the first time we didn't have almost at least 7 players in double figures says a lot. It was the first game as well over that stretch. The Bulls didn't score over 40 points. They still score off the bench. They still scored 39 points off the bench. But, it's been a really good run for the Chicago Bulls. But we've seen this before. And I don't say this to be negative, Nancy. I want to allow the positivity to completely override me. I want to allow, but we've seen this with this Bulls team before. We've seen it in different versions of this team under Billy Donovan. We get close to 500. We're right there sniffing it, and then it falls apart. Now, while I pointed out a lot of good stats about the Bulls are 21st in defensive rating. Now, a 150-point game affects that drastically. The Bulls are kind of more realistically about 13th over that stretch, but it's still a lot for the Bulls to prove. And that's what I keep going back to. It's still a lot for them to prove. And the one thing that they have to prove overall is, can they do it consistently, right? They've been playing great. And again, I don't want to take away from that. They've been showing really good effort. They've been executing on the defensive side of the ball. They've been back connected as a team. Last night was one of the first nights we had bad turnovers, even though out of the 16 turnovers we had, 14 came combined from Coby White and Josh Giddey. So was it really a bad team turnover night, or did just Giddey and Coby as the primary ball handlers have had rough turnover nights, right? So, you got to look at that part of it. But I'm once again forced to kind of be put in a situation. When the Bulls were on their 5-game winning streak, one of the things I said was, I want to see how this team responds once adversity hits. And they responded like ass to when adversity hits. And that's what I'm worried about will happen again with this Bulls team, is that, they're playing really well right now, but eventually you will lose 2 games in a row, right? Eventually you may lose 3 games in a row. How you lose those games is going to be important. Did you lose them because, the other team was just a better team that night, but you gave effort? Do you get down on yourself after going on that losing streak? It's going to happen at some point. Every team faces it multiple times in the season. The Thunder may not. The Thunder may be the one team that doesn't face that, right? But most teams go through that over the course of the season, no matter how good or how bad they are. They go through that. They go through a 2 or 3 game losing streak. And I'm almost now forced to be in the situation where I have to wait to see, A, how they look in those losses, and then B, how they respond to those losses as well, right? The first couple Chicago Bulls losses after the 5-game winning streak, they still did look like a competitive team. And then it just eventually got to the point where the energy wasn't there, the execution wasn't there, they looked lackadaisical, they wasn't playing for each other, and they started settling for bad threes. And I'm just wondering to see again, if they go through that adversity, does that stuff start rearing its ugly head again? And if it doesn't, great, right? So I think that's where I am right now with this team. They've given us hope, and that's better than what we thought we were going to be when we were in that 3-13 stretch. They have given that us through the work and through commitment and through how they've played. They've given Chicago Bulls fans that. But giving Bulls fans hope, again, if you're only going to rip it away again, is one of the most dangerous things that you can do, because the fan base will turn on you and they're going to respond in kind and be very aggressive in their hate if that's what happens. And you still got some Bulls fans that are still holding on to, oh my God, they're going to disappoint again. They're going to suck again. Oh, are we believing this again? There's even this guy on Twitter who his phrase is always, oh, Bulls fans will never. He just says that about everything. At this point, it's like a catchphrase, even though he's kind of retarded. So you have that part of it. So either way, I'll say this: this Bulls team is playing the right way right now, and I got to give them credit for that. If we're in the now and what they're doing now, they're doing just about everything that we wanted to see them do over the last stretch, as far as playing connected and all that type of stuff. And we'll see how this continues. How long this level of play. I'm not even talking about win-loss. I'm not talking about the record at this point. I'm talking about the way that they are playing on the basketball court, the way they are executing on the basketball court, those type of things. Because as I keep saying with Chicago, if you fight, if you compete, if you play tough, and you don't just look like a team that's rolling over and giving it up, the fan base is going to respond to you, and they're going to believe in you. They're going to give you the proper energy. They're going to do those type of things, but it has to be earned, especially with how parts of the season has gone. And I guess we'll just see what the Bulls do with it in this game, or in this stretch. And, we'll see if they continue to give us that present of hope leading into the new year, because I'm telling you what, right now, I can only hold my excitement for so much longer, because this team is playing really, really good. And I want to be in that. I'm just a little bit nervous. I've been hurt before, right? And that's what it comes down to. I've said this years ago. I'm going to say this again. We are in an emotionally abusive relationship with the Chicago Bulls, specifically the front office and the coaching staff. That is just how things have been. I don't think they're going to change anytime soon, but, we'll see what happens with that one. But let me know what you guys think down below. Hearing what the Bulls have done over this 4-game winning streak, winning 5 out of their last 6, those type of things. How do you feel about this team? Let me know what you guys feel on it down below. Positives, negatives, I want to hear it all. Sound off down below. With that said, I want to start talking about the trade market. We got some major trade news in regards to Coby White and Nikola Vucevic as well. When it comes to Coby White, according to Brett Siegel, the guard market may start with Coby White, surprisingly enough, saying this: a lot of organizations pinpointed the Bulls as a hub of trade intel at the NBA G League Showcase. Not only because of the talk surrounding White, but because of all the teams that have already spoken with Chicago this season about a multitude of trade information spanning well past their own players, league sources told Clutch Points. Although Bulls will be entering this year's trade deadline as sellers once more, sources have described and label them as sellers with a purpose. So let's sit there. What does sellers with a purpose mean? To me, that means that they are fine selling off parts of their roster, but they want a specific something back. Is that draft capital? Is that a certain player? Do they want young players back with experience like AK has targeted before? I'm not surprised to hear the Bulls being sellers at the deadline, mainly because they have expiring contracts of veterans that can actually help, teams. Do they want, like for example, in the Timberwolves talk, do they want a Juan Behringer back in a trade with the Minnesota Timberwolves because they feel like that could be their young center that they can start, grooming to be their center of the future? Those are the type of things that you have, right? So hearing that the guard market starts with Coby White, there have been a number of reports of teams that are interested in Coby White. Number one, the Orlando Magic. This one also comes from Brett Siegel saying this. The Magic are interested in adding a secondary scoring and have been linked to Coby White for a 1-year rental. But reportedly, according to Siegel, the offer would be Jonathan Isaac and second-round picks is what's being shopped. Listen, I love Jonathan Isaac. But to me, if you trade Coby White as a 20-point-per-game scorer for a player in Jonathan Isaac who is a really good on-ball defender, make no mistake about it, but can only play 12 to 15 minutes and, to guard his injuries, we could have just kept Lonzo Ball if that was the case. I don't want to trade Coby White for a bigger version of Lonzo, and that's basically what Jonathan Isaac has become for that Orlando Magic team. Still a player that can absolutely help you and can help you win basketball games, but he's not really a piece. And second-round picks, no, I'm good on that trade accordingly. Now, this one comes from the Mark Stein line. They said the Minnesota Timberwolves, which you've heard before, saying this. Timberwolves recently held trade dialogue with the Bulls and Hornets on Coby White and Colin Sexton. Minnesota is adamant on adding an impact starting point guard during the trade season. We've already talked ad nauseum about the Minnesota Timberwolves, whether it's Rob Dillingham, Dante DiVincenzo, Juan Behringer, a combination of those players that the Timberwolves are looking to shop, to get their point guard of right now so that they can try to go. This is a team that's been to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. They're trying to get over that huge hump of the OKC Thunder, so I understand it, but you got to come with more than that to me. So we'll see what happens there. Again, I don't like, even Rob Dillingham doesn't necessarily fit the Bulls long term. He's undersized shooting guard, basically. We got our point guard, so there's those things, so I don't necessarily believe that. An interesting one that did come out from Brett Siegel was Denver Nuggets, saying this. In such a case, White would basically be a rental for teams' playoff runs and a potential championship push. One team which is not reportedly pursuing White but makes sense in this type of scenario would be for Denver Nuggets, given the backcourt needs and title aspirations. Now, that is more speculation from Brett Siegel, and he admits that in there, but the Denver Nuggets are interesting, right? And he does go on to say this. White's unlikely bonuses and slightly higher apron salary would complicate such a move for Denver unless they wanted to trade Peyton Watson, which has been brought up as a possibility by the Denver Post. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. While I'm a huge Coby guy, and I've told you guys, I love Coby White, and I don't think the Bulls should be looking to move on from Coby as like a salary dump or anything like that. But what I have said is that, if you are moving Coby and getting a promising young piece back that kind of fits more with what you're going for, I can understand that. Peyton Watson as a player that can play power forward, that can slide in there, you can move modest to the three, is interesting. Now, he's only averaging 10 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and he does have a super high ceiling. He's 23 years old, but it is a player that I would be intrigued. He's shooting 40% from three, 50% from the field. He's averaging a block and a half per game. So then that your front line, your 3 and your 4 are both players that can block shots at that point. I'm interested, but again, it'd have to be more than that to me if they wanted Coby White. But again, so you're hearing that. But Brett Siegel goes on to say that 6 different teams around the league have already been in contact with the Bulls in regards to Coby White. Minnesota Timberwolves, which we talked about as well, which is good. Orlando Magic, Atlanta Hawks, the Cleveland Cavaliers as well, and the other teams that we talked about. So hearing that 6 teams have reached out in regards to Coby, it can mean a lot of different things. It can mean as simple as, hey, if we wanted, what we need to include in a Coby White trade. It could be as simple as that. The Bulls said, hey, we would want X player on your team. The other team said, yeah, we good. Peace, y'all. Like, it could be very simple as something as that, or it could be something as it is kind of extended trade talks. Now, I want to be clear here. The trade buzz around Coby is growing, and it does feel like there is smoke to that fire, or where there's smoke, there's fire. There you go, that one. And like I said, we don't know if these talks happened more so when the Bulls were in the midst of that 3-13 stretch where it was like, well, fuck, if we're going to keep losing at this rate, we need to know the value for everybody because everybody could go. And now as the Bulls have started playing better, maybe those trade talks have subsided some, or it could very well be that the Bulls have identified and said, listen, because of that 3-13 stretch, or because of anything else, maybe we don't want to give Coby that $30 million or anything like that, and let's see what else is out there before we make that choice. It doesn't mean that a trade is going to be pulled. It doesn't mean that it's something that's imminent, but it does mean that the Bulls are at least listening, which again, like I said many times before, they should, at the point where you're in now, you should be listening to all the trade conversations that people are bringing towards you. Doesn't mean every deal is going to be a good deal. Doesn't mean every call is going to be something you really investigate, but you should be on there to see what you can get. Orlando Magic, Atlanta Hawks, Cleveland Cavaliers being on that team, the Minnesota Timberwolves being one of those teams as well. Those are all teams that make sense to go after Coby White. One team that we haven't heard is like the Houston Rockets, because it seems like they're not really looking at a player that is going to need an extension at the end of that. So, we'll see. And we'll see where that ends up with Coby. But it does seem like there is a lot of smoke around a Coby White trade. The question is, how legitimate is it and how realistic is it going to be? And with the Bulls, the one thing about AK, no matter what you can say, good or bad, that I think everybody agrees on it, is AK gets blind spots when the team is winning. And if this Bulls team keeps winning, leading here into the next couple of weeks, into about mid-January, where they're winning more games than losing, that is absolutely going to affect AK and his willingness to pull the trigger on a trade. And we just got to see how that's going to go. But it doesn't stop there. Big trade rumors around Nikola Vucevic also, when it comes down to it, going so far as to say that Nikola Vucevic trades are starting to gain traction. There are two rumored deals out there for Nikola Vucevic that are both targets that could make sense on the court for the Bulls, one that I don't believe. But one is Kristaps Porzingis, is one of the rumors there, saying this. This comes from the Mark Stein. Atlanta's 30-year-old big man is on a $30 million deal that's set to expire this summer. According to Brett Siegel, his future with the Hawks is up in air. The Chicago Bulls should turn away any offers for the aging stretch five. The reported offer is Coby White and Nikola Vucevic for Kristaps Porzingis. That would be on brand for Karnišova, but he should decline it. Here's the thing. I don't even think that's on brand. People like to talk about Arturas and act like he just makes a bunch of stupid trades. He doesn't. Now, he doesn't make trades, which is the thing, but AK doesn't just, that's really lopsided. And I think when you pair in the fact that Kristaps has that mysterious illness, the rare illness, let me not say mysterious, they know what it is. It's rare that it's going to force him to lose deals. This trade doesn't make the Bulls better. If you could guarantee Kristaps was going to be fully healthy and on the court, yeah, it brings a lot of the rim protection you're lacking. But it doesn't make the Bulls better at all, in my opinion. Not at all, not in any type of way. And because both these players are expiring anyway, it's not like you're gaining any type of long-term cap flexibility either. It's a deal that doesn't make any sense to me. Now, if they were trying to add Kristaps Porzingis for some of their expirings and saying, hey, we're going to take the chance of Kristaps and his two-way potential to add to this team, maybe that's different. But I just think that the trade chips, especially when you hear other teams being interested in Coby White, you can probably get more back than just Kristaps Porzingis for Coby and Vooch, in my personal opinion. But you guys can let me know how you feel on that one down below. The other one is Kristaps not Kristaps. Nikola Vucevic for Jonathan Kuminga. Saying this, Jonathan Kuminga has had a sporadic NBA career with Golden State Warriors. At times, he's shown glimpses of future All-Star and earned himself north of $20 million on his latest contract. In other instances, he's been benched or pulled from the rotation for stretches and games rotated between the starting and reserve units. This would be a perfect deal for the Bulls if it's solely a Vucevic for Kuminga swap, a 35-year-old aging center for a 23-year-old ascending asset with loads of potential. In addition, his contract spans one more season, a club option, and provides a perfect period of experimentation with Chicago. And here's the thing. I'm going to say this. Even though I don't like the idea and concept of Jonathan Kuminga on this Bulls team because he's a player that needs the ball in his hands heavily to be effective, and I don't know how much that works with a player like Josh Giddey, and if you're keeping Coby White, for example, in that trade, I just don't see that working. And with the way that Modest has grown as an off-ball player, which he's done here lately, I don't want to affect that. But for an opportunity to look and see for the rest of this season, and you have an option in the summer for whatever reason, if you want to, even move him later on, which could make him enticing to other teams, if you're getting Kuminga for Vooch, I may take that move. And I think at that point, you're probably then rolling with Jalen Smith and Zach Collins. It does affect your ability to do a double big lineup because those guys are going to be backing, Jalen Smith will be backing up Zach Collins at that point in time. It's an interesting scenario, but I'm still worried because Kuminga isn't a defensive stopper at all. He's a turnstile on defense. He does have really good upside. Like I said, I believe in the talent of Kuminga, and I do think there's a really good basketball player in Kuminga. But fit matters, and I don't know if that fit is here in Chicago without it affecting things in a negative spotlight. So that's what. But for an experiment and a one-year rental that it could be to get Kuminga for Vooch, who's expiring anyway, I can't really poke a lot of holes in that trade if that's the case. But I think what it all comes down to is that this trade deadline could be very interesting for the Bulls. Could be. I won't say that it will be, but it could be. We just got to see how it's going to shake out. But that's it for today's episode of Chicago Bulls Central. Are you buying into this run for the Chicago Bulls? Do you trust it? Are you emotionally hedging it like I am? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed today's show as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe out there, go Bulls, and always see red. Love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.